Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of What If Comics. This is the channel that we talk about comic books, videos, like we always do. We're going to start the episode with a few What If comics. I got a couple in the mail. I think I told you last week, and here's one that's really good. What if the Phoenix had not died? It says the X-Men ask, what if the Phoenix had not died? So, spoiler, in the Phoenix saga, eventually Phoenix, Jean Grey, dies. And this is what if she hadn't died? Cool cover. You see Wolverine there. You have Cyclops. Cool stuff. Then the next one I'm going to be sharing today is what if Daredevil became an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.? And on the bottom it says, what if Ghost Rider were separated from Johnny Blaze? And it's a plus. It's a little extra story on the bottom there. Very cool. Like every other What If comic book I share. Very, very cool. So today, what we're going to be doing is I have a bunch of Spiderman comic books. He's always been my favorite. And today, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing my Amazing Spider-Mans. Next week, I'll be going through my Spectacular Spider-Mans, and then the week after that, Web of Spider-Man, and our final showing will be just Spider-Man, the one that started off with the McFarlane covers. So here we go. These are all Amazing Spider-Mans. We're going to start with Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 23. That's a cool cover. You got She-Hulk there. Yep. And then you have Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 24. You got Ant-Man, and it looks like Spider-Man has been shrunk down to be the size of Ant-Man, which is kind of cool. Big trouble for a little spider. And another annual, Carnage is back, annual number 28. That's a pretty cool cover with Carnage on there. And to start off, I have the Ultimate Spider-Man. Yes, it's a perfect condition. Number one, Amazing Spider-Man. Psych. It's a flashback. Amazing Spider-Man. And it's kind of cool. Peter Parker as Captain America because he's reading the comic books and he's dreaming that he will become Captain America. So it's kind of a retelling of the original story of how he became Spider-Man. Okay. So this is my old, I don't have a lot of old, super old Spider-Mans. So this is Amazing Spider-Man. This is my oldest Amazing Spider-Man. Spider-Man 259. The original is back, so this is probably when he just changed from the black costume and he's going back to being regular Spider-Man. And the never before told story about Mary Jane Watson and Hobgoblin Strikes. Cool. And this is Amazing Spider-Man 263. There's a new webhead in town. It looks like Doc Ock there, doesn't it? I think that's a Doc Ock Spider-Man of some kind. And then we got Amazing Spider-Man 296. Some of these are a little bit more beat up than others because I was read some of them quite a bit. This happened to be one of those. 296, Spider-Man, Force of Arms, and it shows like Doc Ock obviously must be dreaming that Spider-Man's attacking him, and it's like a spider version of Spider-Man. And here we go with Sinister Six, the return of Sinister Six, Part 1. And if anybody doesn't know what the Sinister Six is, I believe it was Electro, it was Dr. Octopus, the Vulture, and a couple other villains that got together and they all decided to try to take Spider-Man down. And this is the return of that group, the return of the Sinister Six, Part 1. And now here is the return of Sinister Six, Part 2. The Shocker. Oh, you got Sandman and Mysterio. And here's Part 3. And someone dies in this. Who could it be? That's a cool cover with the vulture there. Now we got Part 4. And actually saying the Hobgoblin is now part of the Sinister Six. So you got the Vulture, Dr. Octopus, Mysterio, Sandman, Electro, and the Hobgoblin. Very cool cover. Here's Part 5. We got the entire group fighting Spider-Man. And it's one of those things you gotta like read it to find out how he possibly could survive such an onslaught. And this is I personally think this is the best cover of this storyline. It's Part 6 with Dr. Octopus basically saying die, 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 die. Because he's been trying for years to take Spider-Man down and can't do it. And now we got Amazing Spider-Man 343. He's got his powers back. So it must have been a point where Spider-Man didn't have his powers, I'm guessing. Like, I haven't read these in quite a while, so I don't necessarily remember what all the storylines were on all of them. This is 355. This is Round Robin, the Sidekick's Revenge. Kind of cool Punisher cover right there. And you got Moon Knight and Nova, I guess. Kind of cool cover. And then you have 366. And you got a little Red Skull action. That's a cool Red Skull right there. And 368. The Invasion of the Spider Slashers Part 1. I do have Part 2, 369. And it says something there, plus the Green Goblin. So it must have been somehow the Green Goblin made a return, even though we all know he died years ago in one of the earlier storylines. And so unfortunately I didn't finish that series, but I do have 383 from the pages of Venom, the Jury. That's a cool cover. This is part 2 of that storyline, Trial by Jury Part 2. And here's Trial by Jury Part 3. And now here's a cool story with the Vulture. Life Theft Part 1. So you'll find out what happens in Part 2. Here we go. So this is a storyline where the Vulture takes Spider-Man's youth and he becomes young again. And Life Theft Part 3. Now those are, you find out here about Peter Parker's parents and how they returned and the truth behind what actually happened. It's a cool one, 388. And unfortunately, I thought I had all these, but I guess I don't. This is Pursuit Conclusion. And basically what happens is Peter Parker finds out that the chameleon basically created versions of Peter Parker's parents and he goes after them. And you notice this says, I never noticed this is Craven the Hunter's tombstone up here, which is really cool. This is the Shrieking Part 1, 390. And then you got the Shrieking Part 2. It's a cool cover. Then Shrieking Part 3. In the aftermath of tragedy, Peter Parker, no more. That's a cool cover. And then you have Shrieking, the finale. And then you have here Power and Responsibility Part 2. I guess they don't have Part 1. That's still a cool cover because who's that guy over there? Spider-Man. And then you have some guy, looks like he's a spider, going over here. What? Is it the return of the clone? Boom. Right there. Cool. Then you have this cool cover here. Puma. That's a really cool cover. I like that one. I always love Spider-Man's covers. They're very always so colorful. And here's a cool one with Daredevil. Daredevil has a different costume here. This is a cool one. The Web of Death. This is back in the day when they used to have fabulous flip books. I think there's a yeah, flip to the other side. There's like another storyline going on. And there you go. Here's my final Amazing Spider-Man book. So like I said, this is just my Amazing Spider-Mans. I have the Web of Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, but like I said, he's my favorite. As you can tell with my statue right there. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about a few things, the comics. As you can see back here, we have, first I'll show you, this is my Yoda Lego set. It's pretty cool. I have that in my office, so I always have the Force with me while I'm working. Yes. And then Top Gun, starring the late Val Kilmer. And that's what I'm going to be talking to you about is some Val Kilmer movies. So this is one of his most notable ones is Top Gun. And then I do have his very first movie he ever did from the makers of the original Airplane is Top Secret. That's a pretty funny movie. If you like the Airplane, you like the Naked Gun movies and things like that, definitely recommend seeing Top Secret with Val Kilmer. It's a pretty much hysterical from the beginning to the end. And another comedy that starring Val Kilmer is Real Genius. And I believe that was his second movie he did. So his first movie was Top Secret, and this is his second movie he did, which was also really funny, kind of a little quirky. Um, so there's a kid that's like 15 years old, goes to this school because he's a genius, and he runs into Val Kilmer. And Val Kilmer just doesn't care. He's a goofball, always having fun, and basically it's how they become friends and they work together. And there's a lot of other things that happen, but it's a really fun movie. So there you go. That was my Val Kilmer movies. And I'd like to show you one other thing is, so if you go to Barnes and Nobles, sometimes you can find some cool books. This is one of those cool books. It's Clint, it's called. It shows a retrospective of all of Clint Eastwood's movies. Articles, everything he directed. He's done quite a few movies. And if you're a Clint Eastwood fan, definitely recommend getting this right here. And also, I have, so my personal favorite movie ever is Good Will Hunting. And I got everything there is related to this movie, including the script. And as you can tell, I've read it many of times. It's beat up and destroyed. But if you have a specific movie that you really love and you want to see what the screenplay is like, look it up on Barnes and Nobles, look it up on eBay or Amazon, and you might be able to find it because lots of these are created. I have The Green Mile and a few others also, but this is my personal favorite. Um, so yeah, all right. So that's the end of this video. Next week we'll be doing part two of my Spider-Man books. We'll be doing either Web of Spider-Man or Spectacular Spider-Man. Haven't decided yet. And so until then, click that like button and see you next week.